What a Leader Should Know According to the Art of War by Sun Tzu.
The art of war teaches us to rely not on the likelihood of the enemy's not coming, but on our own readiness to receive him. Not on the chance of his not attacking, but rather on the fact that we have made our position unassailable. Thus, we may know that there are 5 essentials for victory. 1. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. 2. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. 3. He will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. 4. He will win who, prepared himself, waits to take the enemy unprepared. 5. He will win who has military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. Hence the saying, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. The general that hearkens to my counsel and acts upon it will conquer. Let such a one be retained in command. The general that hearkens not to my counsel nor acts upon it will suffer defeat. Let such a one be dismissed.
I've compiled a number of passages from Sun Tzu's The Art of War as they pertain to leadership. The main topics are 3 of the 5 main factors to study, which are the moral law, the commander, and method and discipline. The other 2 will come in separate videos. The qualities and skill sets of a good general, and what makes a bad general, and the ways they fail. As we go through the video, we can use the terms general, commander, and leader interchangeably. Also, you can think of the general as yourself, your adversary, or someone in charge of a department, group, or team. Now I'm reading from The Art of War, and selecting passages that pertain to this topic, being a great general, a great leader, and rearranging them to be more organized for both understanding and consumption. I recently recorded a full audiobook of The Art of War, and while doing research, I found a lot of chapter breakdowns, but not concept breakdowns across the chapters. So hopefully this is a little different and helps us get a better perspective. Think about what you want to work on to become a better leader in today's world. Tell me in the comments. Let's go.
I'm Michael Archuleta, and these are the things we need to know.
Like badass skills and tactics? Subscribe and hit the bell.
What a Leader Should Know According to the Art of War by Sun Tzu.
The art of war is of vital importance to the state.
War can be thought of as conflict, struggle, competition.
It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence, it is a subject of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. The art of war, then, is governed by 5 constant factors to be taken into account in one's deliberations when seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field. These 5 heads should be familiar to every general. He who knows them will be victorious. He who knows them not will fail. These are 1. The moral law. 2. Heaven. 3. Earth. 4. The commander. 5. Method and discipline.
We'll cover the heaven and earth factors in later videos, but the moral law, the commander, and method and discipline will be talked about a lot in this video, as they're more intertwined on the inner or interior elements, or things that we have more control of, whereas heaven and earth is based on exterior elements. So let's dive into the commander.
The commander stands for the virtues of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness.
Let's get a definition on each of those. Wisdom, the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. Sincerity, the quality of being free from pretense, deceit, or hypocrisy. Benevolence, the quality of being well-meaning. Kindness. Courage, the ability to do something that frightens one. Strictness, the quality or condition of being strict. Strict, demanding that rules concerning behavior are obeyed and observed. Before we move on, one of the main concepts of the art of war is deception. Yet, here we have the virtue of sincerity as a quality for the leader. I left deception out of this concept breakdown because though it is of high importance to know, understand, and use, that is more when in conflict rather than for leading and commanding one's own people. Believe you me, I will cover that topic and it will be a lot of fun, but it's better suited there. The next passage uses the term bulwark. Bulwark means a defensive wall. From chapter 3, Attack by Stratagem.
Now the general is the bulwark of the state. If the bulwark is complete at all points, the state will be strong. If the bulwark is defective, the state will be weak.
Chapter 1, Laying Plans. Passage 26.
Now the general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his temple ere the battle is fought. The general who loses a battle makes but few calculations beforehand.
Chapter 6, Weak Points and Strong. Passage 24.
Carefully compare the opposing army with your own, so that you may know where strength is superabundant and where it is deficient.
Back to the first chapter. Passage 12.
Therefore, in your deliberations, when seeking to determine the military conditions, Let them be made the basis of a comparison in this wise. 1. Which of the two sovereigns is imbued with the moral law? 2. Which of the two generals has most ability? 3. With whom lie the advantages derived from heaven and earth? 4. On which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? 5. Which army is stronger? 6. On which side are officers and men more highly trained? 7. In which army is there the greater constancy both in reward and punishment? By means of these 7 considerations, I can forecast victory or defeat.
Back up to passage 26.
Thus, do many calculations lead to victory, and few calculations to defeat? How much more no calculation at all? It is by attention to this point that I can foresee who is likely to win or lose.
To chapter 2, Waging War, passage 8.
The skillful soldier
thinks as one with the general, will become a general, or is the general.
The skillful soldier does not raise a second levy, neither are his supply wagons loaded more than twice. Hence, a wise general makes a point of foraging on the enemy. When you engage in actual fighting, if victory is long in coming, then men's weapons will grow dull, and their ardor will be damped. If you lay siege to a town, you will exhaust your strength. In the practical art of war, the best thing of all is to take the enemy's country whole and intact. To shatter and destroy it is not so good. So too, it is better to recapture an army entire than to destroy it, to capture a regiment, a detachment, or a company entire than to destroy them. Therefore, the skillful leader subdues the enemy's troops without any fighting. Hence, to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. In war, then, let your great object be victory, not lengthy campaigns. Hence, the enlightened ruler is heedful, and the good general full of caution. This is the way to keep a country at peace and an army intact. Thus, it may be known that the leader of armies is the arbiter of the people's fate, the man on whom it depends whether the nation shall be in peace or in peril. The good fighters of old first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat, and then waited for an opportunity of defeating the enemy. To secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. Thus, the good fighter is able to secure himself against defeat, but cannot make certain of defeating the enemy. Hence the saying, one may know how to conquer without being able to do it.
This will come up again too.
Thus, we may know that there are 5 essentials for victory. 1. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. 2. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. 3. He will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. 4. He will win who, prepared himself, waits to take the enemy unprepared. 5. He will win who has military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. Hence the saying, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Hence, the skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible, and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. Thus, it is that in war, the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won, whereas he who is destined to defeat first fights and afterwards looks for victory. The consummate leader cultivates the moral law, and strictly adheres to method and discipline. Thus, it is in his power to control success.
Thinking of fast campaigns, exploiting weaknesses while protecting yours, capitalizing on strengths while avoiding theirs, and combining other elements to your advantage and their disadvantage, we can start to pinpoint what actions to focus on more and for what purpose.
When he utilizes combined energy, his fighting men become as it were likened to rolling logs or stones. For it is the nature of a log or stone to remain motionless on level ground, and to move when on a slope, if four-cornered, to come to a standstill, but if round-shaped, to go rolling down. Thus, the energy developed by good fighting men is as the momentum of a round stone rolled down a mountain thousands of feet in height. So much on the subject of energy. Therefore, the clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. Hence, that general is skillful in attack whose opponent does not know what to defend, and he is skillful in defense whose opponent does not know what to attack. O divine art of subtlety and secrecy! Through you we learn to be invisible, through you, inaudible, and hence we can hold the enemy's fate in our hands. Carefully compare the opposing army with your own, so that you may know where strength is superabundant and where it is deficient. In making tactical dispositions, the highest pitch you can attain is to conceal them. Conceal your dispositions, and you will be safe from the prying of the subtlest spies, from the machinations of the wisest brains. Do not repeat the tactics which have gained you one victory, but let your methods be regulated by the infinite variety of circumstances. He who can modify his tactics in relation to his opponent and thereby succeed in winning may be called a heaven-born captain. Those are some pretty big points on planning, on preparing for positions, and strategically how to win. Continuing, Sun Tzu explains how to do it tactically. In war, the general receives his commands from the sovereign. Collects his army, and concentrates his forces.
So those last two passages were the first lines of each Chapter 7, Maneuvering, and Chapter 8, Variation in Tactics. In those chapters, he talks about studying various traits and handling and moving men or people.
A clever general therefore avoids an army when its spirit is keen, but attacks it when it is sluggish and inclined to return. This is the art of studying moods. The general who thoroughly understands the advantages that accompany variation of tactics knows how to handle his troops.
Understanding everything in this chapter, Chapter 8, Variation in Tactics, and studying that as a field of knowledge in its own right.
The general who does not understand these may be well acquainted with the configuration of the country, yet he will not be able to turn his knowledge into practical account. Hence the saying, one may know how to conquer without being able to do it.
Last time we saw this passage, Sun Tzu was talking about knowing the enemy and knowing yourself. Planning.
So the student of war who is unversed in the art of war, of varying his plans, even though he be acquainted with the 5 advantages, will fail to make the best use of his men. Hence, in the wise leader's plans, considerations of advantage and of disadvantage will be blended together. If our expectation of advantage be tempered in this way, we may succeed in accomplishing the essential part of our schemes. If, on the other hand, in the midst of difficulties we are always ready to seize an advantage, we may extricate ourselves from misfortune. The art of war teaches us to rely not on the likelihood of the enemy's not coming, but on our own readiness to receive him, not on the chance of his not attacking, but rather on the fact that we have made our position unassailable. He who exercises no forethought but makes light of his opponents is sure to be captured by them.
Real quick, this line also jumps out to me for not only not planning ahead, but in general being lazy or worse, passive. If you're lazy, that's on you and you can fix that. But if you're passive, you're being taken advantage of. More on discipline.
If soldiers are punished before they have grown attached to you, they will not prove submissive, and unless submissive, then will be practically useless. If when the soldiers have become attached to you, punishments are not enforced, they will still be useless. Therefore, soldiers must be treated in the first instance with humanity, but kept under control by means of iron discipline. This is a certain road to victory. If in training soldiers' commands are habitually enforced, the army will be well disciplined. If not, its discipline will be bad. If a general shows confidence in his men, but always insists on his orders being obeyed, the gain will be mutual. Hence, the experienced soldier, once in motion, is never bewildered. Once he has broken camp, he is never at a loss. Hence the saying, if you know the enemy and know yourself, your victory will not stand in doubt. If you know heaven and know earth, you may make your victory complete.
Chapters 9, 10, and 11. The army on the march, terrain, and the 9 situations all have more on discipline. Some I've touched on, some I will. But these chapters are more about knowing the lay of the land and utilizing your forces accordingly to your opponents. I'll pull out some more main points, but leave some of the details for more concise videos on each subject.
Carefully study the well-being of your men, and do not overtax them. Concentrate your energy and hoard your strength. Keep your army continually on the move, and devise unfathomable plans. The skillful tactician may be likened to the Shuai Zhan. Now the Shuai Zhan is a snake that is found in the Chang Mountains. Strike at its head, and you will be attacked by its tail. Strike at its tail, and you will be attacked by its head. Strike at its middle, and you will be attacked by head and tail, both. It is the business of a general to be quiet, and thus ensure secrecy, upright and just, and thus maintain order. He must be able to mystify his officers and men by false reports and appearances, and thus keep them in total ignorance. The different measures suited to the 9 varieties of ground, the expediency of aggressive or defensive tactics, and the fundamental laws of human nature. These are things that must most certainly be studied.
And we will.
We cannot enter into alliance with neighboring princes until we are acquainted with their designs. We are not fit to lead an army on the march unless we are familiar with the face of the country, its mountains and forests, its pitfalls and precipices, its marshes and swamps. We shall be unable to turn natural advantages to account unless we make use of local guides. To be ignored of any one of the following 4 or 5 principles does not benefit a warlike prince. When a warlike prince attacks a powerful state, his generalship shows itself in preventing the concentration of the enemy's forces. He overawes his opponents, and their allies are prevented from joining against him. Hence, he does not strive to ally himself with all and sundry, nor does he foster the power of other states. He carries out his own secret designs, keeping his antagonists in awe. Thus, he is able to capture their cities and overthrow their kingdoms. Bestow rewards without regard to rule. Issue orders without regard to previous arrangements. And you will be able to handle a whole army as though you had to do with but a single man. Confront your soldiers with the deed itself. Never let them know your design. When the outlook is bright, bring it before their eyes, but tell them nothing when the situation is gloomy. Success in warfare is gained by carefully accommodating ourselves to the enemy's purpose. In every army, the 5 developments connected with fire must be known, the movements of the stars calculated, and a watch kept for the proper days. In order to carry out an attack, we must have means available. The material for raising fire should always be kept in readiness. Unhappy is the fate of one who tries to win his battles and succeed in his attacks without cultivating the spirit of enterprise, for the result is waste of time and general stagnation. Hence the saying, the enlightened ruler lays his plans well ahead, the good general cultivates his resources. No ruler should put troops into the field merely to gratify his own spleen. No general should fight a battle simply out of pique. Anger may in time change to gladness. Vexation may be succeeded by content. But a kingdom that has once been destroyed can never come again into being, nor can the dead ever be brought back to life. Hence, the enlightened ruler is heedful, and the good general full of caution. This is the way to keep a country at peace and an army intact. Thus, what enables the wise sovereign and the good general to strike and conquer and achieve things beyond the reach of ordinary men is foreknowledge.
So now, Sun Tzu will tie in all of the past and future elements with what he deems as the most important of the most important.
Now this foreknowledge cannot be elicited from spirits. It cannot be obtained inductively from experience, nor by any deductive calculation. Knowledge of the enemy's dispositions can only be obtained from other men. Hence the use of spies. Hence, it is only the enlightened ruler and the wise general who will use the highest intelligence of the army for purposes of spying, and thereby they achieve great results. Spies cannot be usefully employed without a certain intuitive sagacity. They cannot be properly managed without benevolence and straightforwardness. Without subtle ingenuity of mind, one cannot make certain of the truth of their reports. Be subtle, and use your spies for every kind of business.
Here are the last points to make. What sets a leader up for failure?
There are 3 ways in which a ruler can bring misfortune upon his army. 1. By commanding the army to advance or to retreat, being ignorant of the fact that it cannot obey. This is called hobbling the army. 2. By attempting to govern an army in the same way as he administers a kingdom, being ignorant of the conditions which obtain in an army. This causes restlessness in the soldiers' minds. 3. By employing the officers of his army without discrimination, through ignorance of the military principle of adaptation to circumstances, this shakes the confidence of the soldiers. Now an army is exposed to 6 several calamities, not arising from natural causes, but from faults for which the general is responsible. These are 1. Flight. 2. Insubordination. 3. Collapse. 4. Ruin. 5. Disorganization. 6. Rout. When the general is weak and without authority, when his orders are not clear and distinct, when there are no fixed duties assigned to officers and men, and the ranks are formed in a slovenly haphazard manner, the result is utter disorganization. When a general, unable to estimate the enemy's strength, allows an inferior force to engage a larger one, or hurls a weak detachment against a powerful one, and neglects to place picked soldiers in the front rank, the result must be rout. There are 6 ways of courting defeat, which must be carefully noted by the general who has attained a responsible post. The natural formation of the country is the soldier's best ally, but a power of estimating the adversary, of controlling the forces of victory, and of shrewdly calculating difficulties, dangers, and distances constitutes the test of a great general. He who knows these things and in fighting puts his knowledge into practice will win his battles. He who knows them not, nor practices them, will surely be defeated. There are 5 dangerous faults which may affect a general. 1. Recklessness, which leads to destruction. 2. Cowardice, which leads to capture. 3. A hasty temper, which can be provoked by insults. 4. A delicacy of honor, which is sensitive to shame. 5. Over-solicitude for his men, which exposes him to worry and trouble. These are the 5 besetting sins of a general, ruinous to the conduct of war. When an army is overthrown and its leader slain, The cause will surely be found among these 5 dangerous faults. Let them be a subject of meditation.
So again, what do you want to work on to become a better leader in today's world? Tell me in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe, and until next time, stay badass.